And today we're tackling something that, well, on the surface seems small, a fight in a narrow neighborhood alley, but it really opens up these complex questions about community, law, human behavior.
Totally. Our main source here is this really detailed transcript. It's from a discussion with the residents involved and even includes input from a police representative.
Yeah, so our mission is basically to walk through the source material together. We want to unpack the dynamics, understand the legal bits they talk about, and really get a sense of the human side of this kind of neighborhood conflict escalating. We're kind of your guides through it all.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Before all the trouble really flared up in the alley, the source mentions that the main person involved is Mr. Chat. He already had this prior public incident.
Right, that's key context from the transcript. It says back in August 2024, Mr. Chat's car, a Benz, it collided with a rescue vehicle. This was near Yai.
And the source describes what happened next as, well, pretty wild. He apparently gets out, argues with the rescue worker, and then just drives off.
It drives off, and the rescue worker actually chased him. The transcript even mentions bystanders, like motorbike taxi drivers, trying to block his car with barriers.
But he still got away.
Managed to, yeah. Now, why this matters for the alley situation, the source points out that the neighbors recognized him from this, and it seems their comments about that incident might have, triggered what happened later in the alley.
Ah, okay, so it wasn't just out of the blue. There's this background tension already there. Right, let's dive into the first specific clash in the alley itself. This one involves a resident, Miss Sophia, and her son.
Exactly. So, according to the transcript, Mr. Chat filed a formal complaint against Mrs. Fia's son. The issue: parking a motorcycle, just a standard wave bike, in the alley, near their house on the public road bit.
But the source makes it really clear this wasn't some weird thing to do. Parking like that was, totally normal in that alley. People did it for years, including her son. It was parked near the end, towards the mosque area.
Right. Common practice. But Mr. Chat claimed it blocked his access. And get this, he wasn't just asking for it to be moved. He pushed for a criminal case, an IA.
A criminal case over a parked motorbike.
Seems so. And it links back to what we just said. The source connects this directly to Miss Fia talking to the media about that earlier crash. She'd said something pretty mild, actually, that Mr. Chat seemed maybe ill, but his parents were good people.
Just that. And that led to this.
Apparently, yes. The source indicates that even that mild comment angered Mr. Chat and seemed to be the catalyst for him going after her family over the parking.
Wow, that does seem like a huge reaction.
Yeah.
And the police got involved repeatedly.
Oh, yeah. The source says Mr. Chat called them 5 times about the bike in one evening, between 8 p.m. and nearly midnight.
5 times? What did the police do?
Well, they came out, put down cones, took photos of the bike, and Miss Fia, according to the transcript, she just complied. Even though the police apparently first suggested her parking wasn't actually wrong.
So she moved it anyway.
She did. She shifted it inside her own small gate into the little area she uses for her food stall, where customers might sit, just to get it off the alleyway.
She gave up her business space to resolve it. What happened with that court case he wanted?
The source says the court suggested mediation, en route, but it also notes that Mr. Chat apparently drafted the mediation terms himself, still trying to frame it as a criminal matter.
He was really determined to pursue this legally, wasn't he?
Absolutely. Over a parking spot.
Okay, so that's Miss Fia. But it didn't end there. The source talks about another incident, this time with Mrs. Tima, a neighbor and friend of Miss Sophia.
Right, and the timing here is pretty pointed, this complaint against Miss Tima. It happened the very next day after she went with Mrs. Fia's son to court for that motorcycle case, February 21st, right after the court date on the 20th.
Okay, so yeah, definitely seems linked. What was the issue this time? Trash.
Trash bags, yeah. Mr. Chat complained to the district office, to the Saket and Feyraksa. He accused Mrs. Tima of leaving trash bags in front of her house, claiming they blocked a public waterway and caused a bad smell that reached his house.
And what was she actually doing with the trash?
Well, according to Mrs. Tima in the transcript, she just put her tied-up trash bags out in front of her house, but within her property line, waiting for collection day.
And did anyone else think it was a problem?
Nope. The source quotes neighbors, even the trash collectors, saying there was no smell, her area was clean. Mr. Chat's house is sort of across, maybe diagonally opposite hers.
So neighbors say no smell, collectors say no smell, but he files an official complaint.
Correct. The expert cited in the source explains this resulted in a minor offense case, Allahu thought. But crucially, the expert noted the burden of proof is on Mr. Chat. He has to actually prove there was a smell or an obstruction.
And could Miss Tama fight back?
The expert suggests, yes, potentially. If she could prove his complaint was malicious, basically harassment, she might be able to file a countersuit. But think about the impact the source mentions officials visiting her house multiple times a day because of his repeated complaints.
Multiple times a day over trash bags. That sounds incredibly stressful.
It really paints a picture of constant disruption.
Right. So parking, trash, the conflicts seem to be escalating in severity. What's the next big one described in the source?
Yeah.
The delivery truck.
Yeah, the delivery truck standoff. This happened May 13th. Involved another resident, Mr. Nubb, and this delivery truck, a kapah for his business.
Okay, walk us through that one. What was the situation?
So the source says this kapah truck had reversed into the alley. It's a narrow alley, remember, near the entrance, to unload stuff at Mr. Nubb's place. Goods are unloaded. Truck's now facing outwards, ready to just drive out. Simple enough.
Until Mr. Chad arrives.
Exactly. In his Benz. Now, witnesses quoted in the source say there was room. He could have waited a moment, maybe maneuvered a bit, but no. He drives right up close to the truck, starts honking, and then it's like he deliberately angles his car to block the truck from leaving.
He blocked the truck that was trying to leave. Why? What did he want?
This is where it gets, frankly, unbelievable, according to the source. He demanded that the kapah truck should back up. Not just a little bit. Back up all the way down the alley.
How far are we talking?
The source describes it as nearly 300 meters back towards the mosque area. He wanted the truck to reverse 300 meters so he could drive in first. He flat out refused to move his Benz to let the truck drive out forward.
Reverse the delivery truck 300 meters down a narrow alley. That's just obstruction itself. How did the neighbors take this?
Not well. The source says loads of neighbors came out, clearly upset. Maybe 50 people, it mentions, for a similar incident later.
Yeah.
It drew a crowd. The police were called.
What did they do?
2 officers from Bangui Ruiya station showed up first. But they couldn't get Mr. Chat to budge. He just wouldn't move his car. So it escalated.
Escalated how?
They had to call in backup investigative police. 4 more officers arrived. And when Mr. Chat still wouldn't cooperate or even discuss it, the source says the police had to physically restrain him. The term used is they locked him.
The police physically restrained him over blocking an alley.
That's what the transcript indicates, yes. It only got resolved when Mr. Chat's cousin apparently stepped in, moved Mr. Chat's Benz out of the way, parked it by a neighbor's gate so the poor kapah truck could finally leave.
Okay, so the standoff ends, but the story doesn't. What happened afterwards?
It's pretty remarkable. Mr. Chat goes straight to the police station and files complaints, not just against the truck driver for obstruction.
Wait, he complained about the driver he blocked?
Yes, and he also filed complaints against the police officers themselves. Claimed dereliction of duty against the first 2 who couldn't make him move, and assault against the investigative team who restrained him.
He sued the police for trying to resolve the situation he created. And the truck driver actually got fined.
According to the source, yes, the driver was fined for obstruction. Mr. Nubb, the resident, ended up paying the fine for him.
How on earth did the police justify fining the driver?
Well, the superintendent's explanation in the transcript is a bit procedural. He said, basically, when the police arrived on the scene, the truck was stationary, and the driver apparently admitted to being parked, even if just temporarily for unloading.
Ah, so a technicality based on what the police saw when they arrived, not the whole context.
Pretty much. The superintendent acknowledged they missed the start of it, but had to act on the situation they found and the driver's statement. The source also mentions the local police seemed hesitant to talk more, worried about being sued themselves, which kind of fits with the superintendent's comments about having to enforce the law carefully.
Man, what a tough spot for the police. Stuck between enforcing minor rules and dealing with someone causing major disruption while also worrying about lawsuits.
It really highlights the difficulty they're facing with these constant calls.
And this whole thing of him using his car to block the alley. It didn't stop there, right?
Yeah.
The source talks about another incident just days later, May 16th, with Mr. Nubb's nephew, Mr. Tawet.
Nope, it happened again. So Mr. Tawet drives his car into the alley, stops near his house gate. He's just getting ready to reverse his car into his own driveway.
Okay, standard procedure.
Then Mr. Chat arrives in his Benz. Now, Mr. Chat's own house gate is roughly opposite Mr. Tawet's, but instead of stopping near his own gate, the source says Mr. Chat drives way down the alley past Mr. Tawet's house.
Why would he do that?
Apparently to set up to back into his own gate from further down, but in doing so, he parks his Benz directly behind Mr. Tawet's car, completely blocking Mr. Tawet from reversing into his own house.
He blocked him again. What was his demand this time?
Similar logic to the truck incident. He demanded Mr. Towett drive forward, deeper into the alley, out of the way, so that Mr. Chat could then drive forward himself and then back his own car into his own gate first.
Wait. He wanted the guy who was already there and about to park in his own house to move out of the way so he could park first. Did Mr. Towett agree?
Of course not. Mr. Towett refused, said, I was here first, I'm trying to get into my house. He also pointed out Mr. Chat had plenty of space to just back into his own gate from where he should have stopped near the entrance without blocking anyone.
And the neighbors?
Same reaction. The source says about 50 neighbors gathered again, really angry this time. And this wasn't quick. It turned into a 2-hour standoff.
2 hours. He just sat in his car, blocking the whole alley.
For 2 hours, yes. According to the transcript, nobody could get through. Cars, motorcycles, nothing. Residents had to find other ways around. It completely paralyzed the alley.
Did his family intervene this time?
His father came out, the source mentions, offered to move the Benz, but Mr. Chat apparently just stayed inside, refused to get out. The source even notes he made some movements in the car that made Mr. Towett think he might actually hit his car.
That's intimidating. The police there for this too?
Yes, police were called. They were present during this 2-hour standoff.
How did it finally end?
Only when the police reportedly threatened to tow his car or drag it out of the way. Only then did Mr. Chat finally move it, allowing Mr. Towett to back into his house.
And after all that 2 hours of blockage, threats, did anyone file a complaint this time?
Interestingly, no. The source says that despite the police suggesting it, nobody filed a formal complaint about that specific 2-hour incident. Maybe they were just exhausted.
Maybe. But the residents did notice a pattern.
Oh, yeah. They described how he seems to deliberately drive past his own gate just to back in from further down, how he often parks with his hazard lights on, maybe pops inside quickly, then comes back out to park properly. They see it all as deliberate harassment.
It definitely fits the picture that's emerging.
Yeah.
Using his vehicle and a very particular interpretation of alley access to cause disruption. There was one more incident mentioned, right? Another motorcycle.
Yes, a final one described in the source. This involved a motorcycle parked really, really close to a wall in the alley.
How close?
The transcript says it was almost merging with the wall, extremely tight. The driver had just gone inside his house for a moment.
Okay, so minimally obstructive, if at all. Mr. Chat's reaction.
Drove his Benz in. The source explicitly states he could have passed it. There was space. But he chose to stop his car, park it, and call the police. Again, demanding the bike be moved.
Even though he could get past, he still called the police.
That's what the source says. Police from Bangui Ruea had to come out again, and they ended up issuing a ticket for obstructing traffic, even though the bike was hugging the wall and the owner wasn't even there.
Yeah. You can see why the residents feel frustrated. And you kind of feel for the police, too, constantly being pulled into this by one person over things that seem minor or deliberately provoked.
Exactly. The source includes residents saying just that they sympathize with the police being called out all the time, but they're also stressed themselves, getting fines for what they consider normal, unavoidable, temporary parking in a very narrow, old-style alley. It doesn't have proper no parking signs, just some old painted lines maybe the residents did themselves years ago.
It really throws into sharp relief that clash between applying rules rigidly and the reality of living in a space that's always worked on, well, mutual understanding.
Precisely. This isn't some modern road with clear markings. It's a traditional community space where coexistence relied on give and take.
So if we step back and look at the whole pattern emerging from this source material, it seems pretty clear. You have Mr. Chat, who apparently lives elsewhere, in a condo, and just visits the alley daily, often for meals with his mother who lives there.
Right. And he's consistently the one initiating disputes, using formal complaints, police, district office, lawsuits over parking, brief stops, trash, maybe honking, how people position their cars, things neighbors see as normal life.
And what does the source suggest Mr. Chat's perspective might be, based purely on his actions and demands?
It looks like he prioritizes, above all else, a completely clear path for his car, his Benz. He expects everyone else to yield totally to his needs, even if it's hugely inconvenient for them, like demanding that truck back up 300 meters or telling Mr. Towett to move forward so he can park first. He seems to believe his interpretation is the only right one, Zero compromise.
Which is obviously the total opposite of how the neighbors see it, right?
Completely. Their perspective, as conveyed in the source, is one of feeling harassed, stressed out, anxious. They view his actions as over the top, maybe malicious, definitely disruptive to their peaceful community. They feel he's deliberately stirring up trouble that just wasn't there before his behavior changed, which they link back to that media coverage of the crash.
And the police.
Mhm.
What's their take, according to the superintendent in the transcript?
The superintendent acknowledges the reality. It's a narrow, traditional alley. It needs mutual courtesy to function. He recognizes they have to enforce the law when a complaint is filed, and there is a technical violation, like obstruction, even if temporary. But the sheer volume and nature of Mr. Chat's complaints are clearly a huge burden.
Did he talk about that tension between the letter of the law and the spirit of community living?
Yes, explicitly. He mentioned the difficulty of balancing strict legal enforcement nitisat with the need for mutual understanding and community principles rathasat. He also pointed out how hard it is for officers arriving late to judge the full context of a situation, like that truck standoff. And yeah, the underlying concern about being sued clearly plays a role in how they approach things.
Wow. This whole situation, just laid out from this one source, it's such a stark example. This friction between one person rigidly demanding their perceived rights and the practical needs of everyone else living together, especially in a place that isn't built for modern strict rules.
It really is. It shines a harsh light on how one individual's refusal to compromise, using a very strict reading of rules, can totally unravel the social fabric of a community that worked fine for years based on mutual respect.
And it's important to remember what the expert in the source pointed out. If this pattern is proven to be malicious harassment, not just enforcing rights, the neighbors do have potential legal recourse.
Which really brings us to the final thought, the thing to chew on after diving into this source. What responsibility do we all have as individuals to balance our legal rights with, the basic necessity of living together respectfully in a community? Is it okay to push the legal system to its absolute limit over relatively minor inconveniences when you know it's causing massive stress and disruption to dozens of your neighbors and straining public services like the police? Where do you draw that line?